Hello my dear friends, this is a PaintyKat. My name is Catherine. Today we're gonna paint with watercolor and watercolor pencils. Please take a short look about materials I recommend today and let's just start. Also want to talk to you about how to save time and how to find maybe some extra moments in your life and spend it for creativity. I'm gonna paint based today on this set. It's my local brand. Let's open. It's 200 grams quality. It's a watercolor textured paper. I'm not sure about paper thickness, but we will see. Usually I like paper 250 or thicker. For you, my friends, on my creative club you can find traceable I'm gonna use today. It's ready to print, printed on just a normal paper, and then you can use a really simple way to transfer lines you need on a paper. I also like this bird, but I think it's kinda spring looking, so I choose this one. 5 birds and a small city in the same composition. About materials possible to use here, it's a watercolor, also pastel, also liners and watercolor pencils. As for me, I'm gonna use watercolor. This is mine, it's calling White Nights. I have 2 different packs, type of the packs. First it's a cuvettes and a second it's a tubes, some extra shades, let's say. Possible to get extra boxes as well for these paints. It's a middle row here, and also I'm gonna use porcelain palette. I like it much more than plastic one, but you know, just need to get it once. It can be not that cheap, but it's working better with watercolor. Before we starting, we have to fix paper on a table. Why I'm talking about table today? Usually I recommend to you use an easel, but first we're gonna use wet in wet technique, so just use tape. Also gonna use today Derwent Inktense pencils. It's a set. Want to demonstrate to you pigmentation, how to work, how to mix it with watercolor and gouache later, and how it's looking all together. And let's go. This tutorial, it's a demonstration, short version, a real-time tutorial going for 1.5 hours. If you like to paint with me to learn techniques and how combine different techniques together, just join me in a creative club and let's paint in a real time. Here we're gonna talk about steps and the main details only. So I recommend to wet paper first. I'm using flat brush, really wide one, but look, I wet this paper not everywhere, only the half of it. As soon as I reached tails of my birds, I stop with clear water because I'm not gonna spread this celestial blue on the whole painting, just on half of it. I'm trying to spread the blue only between houses, but let it be, it can touch houses as well. Yeah, it's a quality of the paper. It's what I was worried from the start. I think it's not enough. I think 250 or thicker it's the best choice. But here, if you see any gaps in any moment on your watercolor paper, that's fine. It can happen, but you need to remove those puddles with a clear and dry brush. For houses, well, of course you can choose any colors you have in mind. As for me, I used cadmium yellow, cadmium orange. I love this color, you know, orange. I think it's one of my favorite shades. Also, it's tiny hint of violet rose. Be patient, don't be in a hurry. Give watercolor time because it's really needs time. Watercolor, it's slow paints. You have to wait, you have to watch how it's spreading, you have to help with your brush and give color those directions that you want, you expected, not those random ways watercolor like to spread by itself. Sometimes I really think watercolor have own mind, you know. About top part of this painting, you can leave it just white. It will look beautiful also, but as for me, I like to have a colors on a background, and for me it's gonna be a sepia, but not just a sepia because it can look too grayish, not really colorful, so I mixed it with my favorite cadmium orange. Let it dry it really well, and when you will use a hand dryer, you probably will notice that fixing tape not fixing well. Push it again. Be sure that watercolor you're painting it's fixed really well on a table. Dry it well, so right now there is no any wet areas on the background, so it's safe to paint wet in wet again. But right now please paint only birds. Color, oh, it's again depends on your own choice on those colors you have. As for me, for first bird, I think it's looking as a pigeon a little bit, you know, maybe something in a pose of this bird, maybe something in the shape of the chest and head, but definitely some details remind me pigeon. And I choose celestial blue, also added a little bit of cobalt blue, touch of violet rose, and maybe orange again. I'm not sure yet about orange, but personally I like combination of cadmium orange and blue colors. I'm not sure still about brightness and saturation of the cadmium orange. It can be so burning, you know, as a flame. So I mixed orange with a hint of sepia, and this way I'd say the shade looking more calm. Maybe later I will find that clear orange also will look balanced enough here in a composition, but first I have to give color to each bird. By the way, actually I was really waiting this set of sketches will recommend me, will demonstrate to me some variations, maybe some ideas about how it may look, but actually they didn't put nothing at all on a cover. It's good and bad same time. It's good for me, for example, because I like to search photo references for myself. I like to know some, for example, here new colors of birds. It's really interesting. It's also giving you nice ideas for future own paintings, isn't it? But imagine if a kid or teenager will take this set to try watercolor, why not? Then they not that experienced with Google searching and not paying attention on it. So for them it can be a tricky to understand what colors to choose and how to paint them beautifully. You know what advice I can give you? Of course you can change colors, you can use whatever you like, really. So many ideas just popped in my head in a moment I took this set of sketches. But if you will change colors, try to repeat them in houses. For houses I used yellow, orange, violet, rose, and a little bit of celestial blue. So all these colors I'm gonna repeat for birds. I think it's a pigeon as a first bird. I'm not sure about a second one, so I decided to paint it pink, right? And a third bird here I'm gonna paint as a blue teeth. We already painted with you this type of bird that calling a teeth. Previously we painted a gray teeth. A little bit difference in the colors they have. This one, third one, I'm gonna paint as a blue one, but chest area gonna look the same. Gonna have a yellow lemon, maybe cadmium yellow medium, a little bit of orange, and also olive green color. Olive green. Actually, before I started, I also took a short look. I did some samples for the Inktense pencils, and I already have an idea what colors I have in a basic set. It's a set of 12 colors, and also all those colors I'm using right now, it depends on Inktense pencils I'm gonna layer on top. I like to combine a similar, not the same, but at least similar colors. Watercolor first because it's just going faster, and after I like to detail it with watercolor pencils. So even when I was painting houses, I already thought about how to use, where to use yellow or where to use pink, orange, all those colors I placed for houses I already kept in mind for future birds. So as you can see, it's just a planning, first planning, let's say. Shades are visible, but they are staying very light, not contrasted, soft looking, I'd say. And the next step in this tutorial, let's check how Inktense painting on top of the watercolor. If I'm painting at home, I like to combine different materials together. They all mixing with water nicely, so it's a good idea because pencils giving you a better control. It's very pointy, pencils very pointy, so if you just doing your first steps with watercolor, you probably will better like pencils that can be blended with water instead of just a watercolor. What I like about pencils, you can put pigment on top of the paper, you can spread it a little bit, it's dry, and before it's reacted with water, you can remove color if you don't like it. You can use first knitted rubber to remove a first layer, let's say, and completely you can remove pencil with just a normal rubber after a knitted one. It's a very nice control. You can really feel comfortable yourself, you know. It's important for beginners to feel that no matter what, you have a total control on a colors. Nothing gonna spread in those direction you don't want to, because first it's a color and second it's a water. When you're painting with a watercolor, it's a water and a color all together, so sometimes it's spreading not that way you're expecting. I like to try pigmentation on black. Usually it's always going in any paints and pencils. When I'm at store, I like to try black and white. Here I tried only black. I liked this pigmentation. How to understand if quality is poor? You know, you can try it on a sample of the paper, water it, I mean pencils, watercolor pencils, and if black turn into the gray, even to the dark gray, means it's a bad quality. Black pencil have to turn to the black color, very deep, inkish black. It's mean pigmentation good and you can take it. Well, I put colors, some, you know, some accents. Tangerine color, very beautiful in Inktense set. Fuchsia, the same. And personally, I adore leaf green color. It's looking as green olive, really beautiful. As soon as pencil done, you can start to water. Be careful. I recommend to water from the light colors to the dark. This way your colors will stay more clear, because if you will go an opposite way, you will spread a darker color on top of the lighter ones. Of course, it depends on a task. For example, here on this feather, I like to spread color from the dark to the light, from the bark color to the orange. I think this gradient also looking beautiful. Look how well controlled this gradient. Nothing spreading to everywhere, as it usually happens with watercolor. I have a total control. I can create a pointy details. Well, sometimes I like to add water with the normal brushes, but if I'm traveling, if I'm meeting with my friends, I like to have a special brush that have a water tank in a pole. So you can see I already have a water, so if we are sitting in a cafe, I don't need to run somewhere and look for the glass of water for watercolor. I can take with me only a notebook with watercolor paper. Nice if sketches already there, prepared before. I can take with me just a small set of watercolor pencils and a small pan with water in it already. And in 5 minutes, of course, if you already have a sketch that printed, or maybe you draw it previously, you can add color and you can really amaze your friends. It's happened a couple of times, I have to say, when we were sitting with the friends chatting, having a good time. Usually I'm drawing at this time or painting something, and everyone already knows about it, but I say watercolor pencils looking the most amazing, because this effect from almost nothing, when it's turning to the colorful spots, it's looking beautiful. Flowers, birds, cities, small still lifes, landscapes, everything. All this you can paint with just pencils, of course. About Derwent Inktense, I can say it's highly pigmented, and even from a tiny amount of pigment on a paper, you can get a very saturated and colorful result. About mixing with another materials, personally I adore white gouache. It's now on my palette. I use Masterclass, it's my local brand. Also I had experience with other brands and can recommend to you Holbein. It can be Winsor & Newton. Just take a look around you. And white gouache, I'd say you have to get it. If you like to add some highlights after painting done, if you like to create a tiny spots of light, for example on eye of the bird, right? It can be a tiny feather, it can be a tiny highlight on a chest, or maybe on a small legs. White gouache, it's staying matte all the time, and also this paint nice to fix a tiny mistakes. Why it is so? Because you can glaze with watercolor on top of the matte gouache. Oh, my friends, I know it's a lot of info in just one tutorial. Three kinds of materials. It's watercolor, Inktense, pencils, and gouache on top. Hopefully, I explained you everything, but please, if you still have any questions about this tutorial, don't be shy to ask me. I'm here to help you. Well, I'm signing my painting and it's done. I wanna remind you, you can remove painting from the table, you can remove tapes only when your painting already completely dried. I use a hair dryer usually. Also, I like to remove hot air for tape removing because this way layer of the glue it became less sticky, much softer, so it's removing without risk of throw any tiny piece of paper from my painting. My friends, thank you very much for joining me today. All links about materials and link for real-time tutorial you can find in the description box. Share to me your paintings, join my channel, subscribe, thumbs up, and I'll catch you on my next tutorials. It was a PaintyKat. Bye bye.